producer, you know. She
Was
did.
I not on the phone? Was I not on the phone?
I go start the producer,
Was I
you
not
know.
on the phone?
The Doctor Surgery streams live on YouTube. So if you've not subscribed, I'd love for you to subscribe to the show. Just to get the subscription levels up, you know, it's good to have the level of subscribers on. Um, the YouTube channel is in the search bar on YouTube. You search the Doctors, Doctors Surgery Surgery, and then you'll get a whole bunch of results. The Doctor's Surgery, probably nothing relating to what the show is at all. And there's a filter button or a refine button. You click on that, and then you click channels and hit the return button, and it will come up with the channels pertaining to the term, the Doctor's Surgery. And we'll be right there at the top, in black and white TDS, with the Doctor's Surgery below the TDS. And you know, you can watch our previous shows, and you can watch live. At the moment we're streaming live. We always stream the show live. You can watch live, or you can watch pre-recorded shows. We haven't started the process of editing the shows yet, and doing a little podcast of aspects of the show, but you know, things and time, you know, my hands are full at the moment, so we do our best with the time we have available to just give you things in the raw format. So go back and have a listen to the previous shows, and you know, make your comments on it. The comments will always be read should any comments be placed. And also, this is Omega 104.1, you know, where we broadcast by the airwaves, or on omegafmradio.co.uk. If you are enjoying the show, please tell your friends about the show. You know, send a link telling them about the show and telling them to listen and participate. It's very important. So we went through quite a bit of topics today. Um, some probably 10 topic areas that we covered today. And again, simply because I got a silly text message earlier, I want to highlight that we only deal with things that have been discussed in the media over the past week. We don't come in with a subject area to say this is what we're going to discuss this week. We discuss the things that have been discussed in the media that's been about black people, pertinent to black people, and you know, something that we feel that things in that have been mentioned need to be cleared up and clarified. So earlier this morning, we started the show on the colorism and the bleaching agents debate. And that's one of the things that we started out on, where a lot of these chemical industry proponents, they're now retracting a lot of these products. And for those who don't know, the government in 2014, I think, had to ban some of these chemicals that we have a live caller.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Call you live. How you doing?
Yes, bro. Blessings, blessings. I don't have much to say, but I just want to ask a question. You didn't catch my mum say, I said, you ever get a summary from what she done try to said to the audience?
Well, Mumsy was saying that there was there was a lot. What aspect of what Mumsy said? Because she did say a lot, and that's why.
Must be me that try to catch a gist if she done try to say we could have an all-black school and it shouldn't be a problem.
Oh no, she did say that. That was something that she was highlighting, that we've already had an all-black school, and the problem came in after funding became an issue where we weren't dipping in our pockets enough to maintain and keeping it going. So as a result, the government started to fund aspects of the school, which brought in the devil in for lack of a better way. She didn't say it in that sense, but once they get involved, then you know, there's a lot of disarray and you know, things starting up. So it's actually by allowing them in, by us not keeping things maintained and allowing them in, they destroyed it.
That's true. And then the next thing when we said notice with our people is like we're sitting there and we want everybody to do things for us, and we do nothing for ourselves.
Spot on. That's something that I keep highlighting every time the subject areas come up in the media, and I listen to people talk. In last week, there were a few black news people that they were talking about Black history, and they were saying that one of the problems they have with Black history is that each and every month, every year when Black History Month comes around, it's a continuous narrative, and for them as young people, it was depressing, but they didn't address the issue. I guess they were saying it, but they weren't saying it. They weren't saying, listen, there's far more to, or perhaps they did. There's far more to Black history than just simply slavery. And the reason why white society pushes slavery, I'm saying this, the reason why white society pushes the slavery aspect and the Kunte Kente aspect is because it promotes, it denigrates. It's like you're showing a metaphoric knee in someone's neck with those imageries.
That's true. That's true. Like I went to sorry to cut it, bro. I went to a Black History Month thing in Jamaica, and it pertaining to nothing to do with Black history. You have Chinese, you have Coolie, as we call them down there. People want to call them Indian. You have Syrian. That don't have nothing to do with African Black history. Like sometimes we need to separate it. The next thing that I saw was the same thing with this white woman in America, where they pretend to be a so-called Black person.
Mm-hmm.
No, a person like she should be charged and sent to prison. It might be a bit harsh, but guess what? That's just the reality. She should go to prison because she was a misleading person.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about that, as one celebrity podcaster highlighted, is that she's going to get a book deal and make millions from this down the road. So so what happens is that society rewards people for taking advantage and appropriating Black culture and Black lives. You know, people are.
Everybody get a pat on the shoulder and get money for that.
Yeah. So
everybody get a pat on the shoulder and money for that. They put down Black people right off our back.
Yeah.
One more thing before we go.
Mm-hmm.
And next thing I notice on the program, you have a few people. They don't know if them get cute or them get whatever. But them not like people to talk about Black issues. Mm-hmm. It's like them always want people to think to the race card. It used to be a thing when them used to say Black people draw. But the race card is not something for Black people. Mm-hmm. It's something with more people every other race apart from the Black man.
Mm-hmm.
Because if him say anything pertaining towards his situation, it become a problem.
Yeah.
Why we have to become a problem? If a Black man have Rastafarian locks, he is a ragamuffin. Mm-hmm. If a European have it, it is fashion.
Yep.
If a Black woman have big rear bum, it's inappropriate. When a European have it, it's cool. Mm-hmm. So everything them turn around and use it in a film paper. But that just says today, which is so important, is that we need to drive our own narrative.
That's right.
We can't allow to have other people to drive the narrative. The next question before we go, it seems like me I run around, but I tell you, brother, my shoulder give me a hard time. Mm-hmm. The next thing is African prepare to do something. When Mr. African, me I talk on a whole Afro-Caribbean as they want to call it. Like, you know, all of that is just a separation figure.
Yeah.
We put against one another.
Yeah.
We have to just look for ourselves as a collective whole as being African.
Mm-hmm.
Are we prepared to do something in this country, or are we going to do the right move and know so we have to develop Africa and head back home? Because we know for a fact that these people are not going to give us a break.
No. And
they're not going to ever give us a break. Because most, sorry my brother,
yeah.
never make a speak. Most Africans fail to realize that they look for the European and every other race for change, when the change they look for supposed to be himself.
That's right.
It's only way alone can change and make a difference.
That's
Don't
right.
expect the European to change because he will never ever change.
That's right.
Even our game, we are benefiting him, and why is he going to go against something that's benefiting and to benefit you?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
No, sorry.
Now, what you're saying there is 100% right. Like I said, growing up, there were plenty of organizations, plenty of things taking place within communities within the area in London that were all black focused and black orientated. And it impacted and on changing the mindset of a lot of the young folks and youngsters out there in a positive way. As a result of that, the government did what? Withdrew funding from the community grassroots organizations because they don't want that change. They want to create subtle prison school to prison pipeline because they don't want to seem responsible for it. So they destroy the organizations that prevent it. So and by destroying the organizations that prevent it and then using the media to create a narrative, it created the whole postcode rivalry that didn't exist 25 years ago. You know, the postcode rivalry was birthed out of the media, plain and
You know,
simple.
next thing I want to say to you, you know, when you're looking at America and most of those black so-called college,
Mhm.
use the word so-called for a lack of better term. And even in England, you know, most of them college hasn't got no things like, you know, like Professor what name? Clark, Powernomics man.
Okay, Claude Anderson.
Claude Anderson, you know, none of the so-called college haven't got no black books in them.
Mm.
They make sure so them push them aside. Them don't want nobody to even start to study some of those books.
Mm-hmm.
Like how his books is not in none of them college.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Jamaica, when we're supposed to have literature pertaining to Marcus Garvey and some of them great black men, we don't have none of that, but them give you literature pertaining to religious education and Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
It's like over in England, them give you, what's his name, our Prime Minister?
Oh, Boris?
Boris. Everybody knows that Boris Johnson is a racist.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows that Boris Johnson is a racist.
Mm-hmm.
So them take him and them dash a carbon.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows that Boris Johnson is a
But
racist.
unfortunately, Jerry Corbyn was a complete idiot when it came to the election. So there was no, and the fact of him changing color like a crooked lizard, you couldn't trust. You can't. It's like he wouldn't have been able to stand up to the force and the tide that was behind him, and it was clearly evident in his demeanor and personality in terms of what happened with the whole Brexit saga and the foolishness that he came out with out of his mouth.
Yeah, that's true still. But now I'll take that from him because I don't know if I pay them to say it. I always do if they make some sort of deal with him and tell him that yo, I just act stupid. Would I like money and go one side. But we put in Boris Johnson in power, and you can see that Boris Johnson ain't doing nothing by himself. He said that people telling him what to do. And then him have a whole bag of what they call them pretty patel people then.
Mm.
I don't know if me be racist, you know.
Maybe, so tread carefully with that one there.
Yeah. But them only for them, the patels them, I tell him what to do and keep advise him on a whole bag of stupidity.
Mm.
Yeah, but the thing will hurt me to them, I notice like people want psychology on the radio, want to tell us so we mustn't talk about the truth and talk about certain subject. I don't know if you ever say that mixed breed people them, what type of people them, can be our own people,
No,
can be police.
I blame my own. If someone is of mixed heritage, right? If someone's of mixed heritage, I don't think that they're stupid. They're just a person of mixed heritage. And a lot of them who understand the fight and understand the struggle, you know, they would be right there in the corner with us because they understand that there's a situation at hand and it needs to be discussed, and it keeps need to be discussed until there's a resolution. You don't discuss something and put it in the cupboard and say, right, we're done because we talked about it already. There's an issue.
We hope that they're with us because history has proven what they have done to us.
No, well, that's true.
History has proven when you talk about Jamaica,
Mm-hmm.
many people might not want to see it, but it was the Mullah force who controlled Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
It was the Mullah force who entered Africa and went deep into the bush to capture us, who helped to make Egypt fall.
Mm-hmm.
And they continue doing that thing today again. So we are hoping that they can stay from our side. We are hoping. Well, I am. I don't know.
Likewise, you know what I mean? I'd love to know, like I keep using him as the example because probably I love Formula One, but you know, the Lewis Hamiltons of this world, where they understand the plight of the person of darker complexion. And whilst they recognize that they're from both backgrounds, it's the plight of the person that is going through the difficulty that they're trying to bring an awareness to the injustices to create that balance. And that's all we're asking for. We need to keep.
Cheer for him. You know me cheer for Lewis, and yes, when I see me now I'm open my mouth and say no. But just I say me love Lewis. Because me and you know how him rooted. What we think. And we can't even say it because we saying it, them people have got done against him. But you know me always a root for Lewis. You know me a root for Ferdinand though.
Who's that? Let's Rio Ferdinand.
Them boy, they're punk. So I'm saying, but me a root for Lewis every day.
So that's what I'm saying. Those that understand stand with the truth and right and justice. And if I've said something that they feel that maybe it's hard pressed, then it's a dialogue. But for someone to take such a ridiculous statement, it's as if it's akin to coonery, because it don't matter if it's done for clarity or anything. It can questions and phrases can be phrased in a different way, as opposed to agitate, to upset. You know what I'm saying? When it was made clear that the show is focused on bringing up these subject areas, these difficult subject areas, no matter how often, but as long as it's in the media's eye, we're going to take the opportunity to derail any negative skewing of it and bring it to the true focus of what it should be.
That's true. That boy, when named Nick Forage.
Yeah.
When people want to call him Nick Forage, you know, Forage are when people go to rubbish heap.
You know, they take
up subject pertaining to black people like him have a right.
Nick Ferrari. No, it's Ferrari.
The same one, we just call him Nick Forage because a garbage man, them boy, they for going on. Me hear them boy, they take up subject pertaining to black people like him have 100% God-given right to discuss what happened to him. And I notice that is that one of the narrative for one. It's like European and every other race feel say them have the authority to tell the black man what is good for him and what not is good for him.
There we go. There we go. The nail right on the head. Hitting the nail right on the head. And this is why we have to, whenever there's a narrative in the media, we have to create our own space where we can set the record straight. Because when you rely on us, the Nick Ferraris, who got the undertone on the underlying level of racism and prejudices, or let's give him the benefit of the doubt, the underlying lack of awareness of what he's talking about because he hasn't got the experience. And then whenever someone comes with something that sounds good for a moment, he leans towards it. And a lot of those sound good comments until he realizes where he
any racism what they want to do. You just have to make sure that you put the judge them in places. Just put them there because them is the one who are upholding with the years and years to come.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm kind of skeptic when it comes to that part there with Donald Trump's now. Because you have to look on the sort of judge them where I appoint and them people there. And some of them are some real hardcore, hardline racists as well.
Very much so.
Yeah. But I'm here.
Yeah.
Continue, bro.
Yeah, man. Appreciate the input.
All right, then, bro. Nice.
Yes, sir.
Big up the producer.
Will do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to the caller.
Thank you.
If you want to take part in the show, the number is 0753-996-8143. I give you the number again, 0753-996-8143. One last time for the money, 0753-996-8143. We know that we have space for at least a couple more calls, or should I say, at least a couple more calls. So if you want to take part in the show, give us a call. We normally allow people to speak. We don't try to cut you short. So let us know if, your take on the whole subject matters. I'll run through them quickly. Like I said, the whole debate around colorism and bleaching and the bleaching agents. Um, as I see the phone ring, one of the things that I need to highlight as well, I had a caller during the middle of the advert break, and the caller had said that during the 70s, there was a lot of funding. He was tagging on to what Mumsy had said, and they're saying that during the 70s, there was a lot of funding that was taking place in terms of black and black organizations, and things were progressing very well. A lot of institutions were being put together. And then when Maggie Thatcher came into power, a lot of that changed because the what they say, the rug was pulled from underneath everyone's feet in terms of funding and so forth. And it destroyed a lot of those organizations and communities, and it impacted on throughout into the 80s, running into the 90s. And that was due to Margaret Thatcher's perhaps prejudicial stance on things. Live caller?
Yeah.
Hello, caller, you live?
Yeah, what's happening?
How you doing?
I'm good. I said we were going to troubleshoot that. And I said about the Ferrari. And the two young ladies I we share, normally, two African ladies.
Yeah.
One was Muslim and the other one was pure African. She may be Somalian, the one, and Egyptian. But the two ladies who give just big regular lashes with their tongue.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, with Ferrari, I don't listen to his show on the special show on the radio,
Mm-hmm.
but I hear his comments. And sometimes, I don't think some of these Europeans or English, there's they've done something, and trying to forget that they've done something.
Mm-hmm.
So they try to hide it behind their back, like they don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or put it behind them like they don't see it.
Yeah.
I'm going back to with Jeremy Corbyn,
Mm-hmm.
as you mentioned earlier on.
Yeah.
In government, I think I would like to think that government is something easy to run. Yeah, but I think our particular time with Jeremy Corbyn was all right. And then all of a sudden, something was said, done, or whatever, but he came back with a different attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when he came back now, this is why he lost it. I know it's because of all sorts of other things that are going on. If you notice, the reason Boris won the election was because of a protest against Jeremy Corbyn. Maybe because he got two black women saying the party. I don't know.
I don't think that's why Jeremy lost the election. Jeremy lost the election because people, British people are very focused on their politicians. No, that's not what it was either. They're very focused on their politicians, and they like when British people make a decision, they expect their politicians to kind of follow through on it. That's what I've observed in my years here, and they expect that recognition that they have that democratic position and so forth. Whether they do or not, they expect some recognition towards that. And what Jeremy Corbyn did when he went against Brexit was his downfall, because you cannot be a backbencher that since God knows when you have been anti-Europe, and then you sit in the seat of power of the opposition party when the people have spoken to be now anti-Europe, and now you are now reversing your position that you proposed for all these years, and then starting to backtrack just to have a separate narrative than the opposing party. It makes you appear fickle and weak, because Right, and no one was going, you know what I mean? And then he started having all these revolts within his own party, all these traitors that weakened this position, you know. So he just crumbled, you know. And what he, if he had stood firm, he may not have had the party political support before the election, but he would have had the public support had he stood firm and backed what he should have backed. And after the election, then the party would have fallen in line. And that would have been the mark of a strong leader. But if he was unraveling even before that time, it just suggested weakness and confusion. You know, his policies were confused, they were excessive, and people were wondering how these things were going to, as brilliant as some of them were, he should have kept some till the second phase. Presented the strongest ones first, and if he won, then in 5 years' time he presented the additional rest. But what he was doing, he was just like proposing to completely overhaul Britain, and had with no clear way of doing so. And then on the major subject at hand, because it was really a second referendum, that last election. You know, he went against the grain of something that he should have simply just stood his corner. I am a Brexiteer. Not this foolishness about I will do this and I'll get people to shut up, man. You get me? Chatting foolishness. That's how I saw it. And that's how everyone interpreted it. It was just ridiculous. You know, and he moved from a position of where I supported him to a position where I saw him as a blithering idiot. Because he wasn't he was. Mm-hmm. 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 No, I understand that, but no, you're still your own person. You know, you can stand firm as that person that makes the final decision. You know, so many people will you will always have advisors. The advisors don't run the party, you run the party. So the final decision is yours. Someone can advise you something. You don't have to follow the poor advice, because it could be great and it could be poor advice. You have to be intuitive enough. You know, so and the we know that he per se as a person wasn't anti-Semitic, but there was a feeling that he didn't do enough to tackle anti-Semitism in the party by the media, because that's not what swayed my opinion. Because I listening to a lot of Jewish supporters of Jeremy Corbyn, they didn't see him as such as how the media was presenting it. There was actually a split in that consensus. So wasn't the crux of it, but he did lose his MPs because of certain rankings and around it, and the media was trying to sway public opinion. But what swayed my opinion was his fickleness does not stand his ground. And as a person that I think that people should stand their ground, you know, he lost me there. If you come and you say something to me, you believe it, and you can explain it and everything, and then all of a sudden you start to backtrack and all these things. And when you're trying to figure out why you're backtracking, you can't even explain why you're backtracking. Mm. Yeah, so. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Exactly. That's true. That's true.
I'm thinking, Jeremy Corbyn, I know he was all the way there. And then the whole country went against him. No, look at the amount of votes that Boris would get when he got.
Yeah, because it was a second referendum, and even people that had voted to stay in Europe voted just for Boris to get this thing done, because Brexit was being dragged out. people just wanted an end to it. Yeah, you know, you can imagine the country has been in stagnation for almost 3 to 4 years because of one subject area. So people were just fed up and wanted it over and done with. We voted to leave, so leave. That's the British mentality. You know, and Boris recognized that, and he hit the nail right on the head. He gambled right, and he won a landslide. And that's why people said, yeah, you know what? The man said he'd rather be dead in a ditch. Whether it was exaggerated or not, they oh no, there was always going to be that transitional period. No matter what had happened, there was always going to be the transitional period. So where we would see if there's a failure is at the end of this transitional period, coming the 31st of December or something like that this year, whether there will be an extension or a deal or no deal, and whatever the case. But if you listen to the news, there's a lot going on. Britain is going in a more stronger position of negotiation as time goes by, and even staunch Brexiteers are now thinking that and now seeing this positivity that can come out of this, and the fact that Europe is really going down a critical path at the moment that can be self-destructive towards Europe, or it can put them in a strong position. But a lot of people see it as very self-destructive path that Europe is on.
I'm thinking there are few things that have come through on the radio before about there's a young lady from South Africa who told about we don't know if I should have right with Africa and the Caribbean Afro-Caribbean and diaspora. It's fighting as a heavyweight and not as a heavyweight. I'm just taking the general current story to that.
Okay.
Heavyweight and not a lightweight.
So that last bit again?
I said we are now a heavyweight instead of a lightweight.
Now Africa is growing in wealth and position, and sooner or later there will be a time that you can't acquire anything in Africa and move there because it will be so sought after. And if people are going to make that move, they need to make that move when it's in that transitional stage and bolster it, and ensure that success of it. And likewise, the Caribbean is almost at that point as well, and we need to bolster it and not pray for its downfall, because a lot of people that are here in the UK, they want to always feel like they're in the stronger place, and they're rooting for the away team in this instance, subliminally. Because whenever you say to someone Jamaica or the Caribbean is going on well, they always try to compare it to Britain, like, oh, but Britain is a first world country and all the you see what I'm saying? It's all of a sudden they don't even realize that they're just denigrating their own. They see everything that's not theirs as better. All right. Respect call. Let me see if I can get one more call in before the end of the advert, or just summarize and yeah.
With the situation with the African Caribbean people, the most the Africans is inviting everybody home.
Yeah.
So for them to take the step as you said.
Yeah.
Even so, we didn't move home. We can still stand up and fight.
Yeah.
When you think of Europe, you got England, America, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, all under one banner. All remix of the European nations.
Yeah.
So anywhere in the world we are, as the young man was saying earlier, we are African. So it's for we to make our move and get our act together.
Definitely. 100%. Yeah. All right. And do so quietly. All right, Kola. Yeah. All right. If you want to text or call in before the end of the show, is 0753 996 8143. 0753 996 8143. One more time for the money, 0753 996 8143. I know it's a bit muffled. I got a mask on, as always, ever since I started the show. So I apologize for the lack of complete clarity. I'm speaking as clear as I can, um, to get the messages across and get what I'm saying across. Right, so it's the doctor's surgery in the last little part of the show. What we talk about today? We talk about colorism. We talked about police comparisons, briefly the police comparisons. We didn't really get into that. And the issue around police comparisons was there's been some strong comparisons over recent months, but per se again last week in the media about black and versus white policing and black versus white police in the US and in the UK, and the negatives that's taking place in relation to that. The negative that's taking place in relation to that. And then then we also spoke about we also spoke about sorry, that wasn't a live caller, I assume. So we also spoke about parenting. Are we good parents? That's something that was flagged up in the media over the past week, and we have to. I put the tagline on it: "Are we good parents?" Because the issue of parenting and going back to school with the COVID-19 was discussed heavily, and being good parents and so forth, and recognizing the issues of the children. That's something that has come up a few times, and I brought up a few times on the show, but there's not really been much takers to that subject area. But again, the reason for that is that we need to be mindful about our parenting skills and recognizing the difficulties that our young folks are going through. And we have to somewhat not change our parenting approach, but we have to modernize or even get rid of the negative impressions on our that are being passed on, refine them to be a bit more able to cope with what your children may be going through, so that they may be able to recognize the issues at hand. So that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about. The fact that in terms of the black causes issue, in terms of every time that there's a black cause and a push towards greatness of blackness, and whether we raise up the Black History Month banner and flag, they always use that in a sense of technology, in such as that the Black History Month subject matters always serve to denigrate and belittle. We need to use these subject matters in a positive way to teach about greatness at all times. I'm not saying forget about slavery, but what you will never see, for example, you will never see uh, someone celebrating in from Palestine a tank or bombs dropping on their houses and them being pulled in from underneath the rubble, or the camp in during Nazi Germany times when you had those people that were suffering so much in there. You wouldn't have a depiction. You would have imageries and stuff as a reminder, but you wouldn't have a depiction of it in a way that denigrates, but more so in a way that reminds. What we find a lot of the stuff that are or empowers. What you find with Black history stuff, they always try to push it in a way that denigrates, and we have to stop that narrative because we push that narrative that they give to us to give to our kids. So our kids see those things and they feel they don't want to be black. They want to take off that black skin because they go, ugh. We need to teach self-love and always empowerment. You know, we can I can give so much examples of how white people have taken the negative aspects of their cultural upbringing and made it seem positive. They put it towards in a positive way. Yeah. But yet we take our stuff and we promote the negative in the raw. Because we're so raw with it. We need to recognize how these things impact on our youngsters. Right? So we never get the true history. You need to give true history during these times. Then we have how the UK and Europe was built, as well as how China was built. There was no takers really on that one. Then we also had we talked about privileged positions in terms of like the BBC presenters and how and their position of power. And then we had the white professor that was pretending to be black for years. We spoke about that. As well as we mentioned Daniel Prude, who was hooded and killed based on his mental health breakdown. He was killed. And then we have the white guy who threatened the police. He was in the same similar scenario as Mr. Blake, but no consequences as a result of his actions, and even threatening the police that he will kill them. So all those things were the things that were discussed this week. On each and every one of those subject areas, the underlying issue still come back to that single point. We need to change the narrative, and we need to do for self and kind. Well, it may not be a single narrative, but go back to the narrative that's constantly being pushed. We need to change the narrative, and we need to do for self and kind. And if we can't get on in these societies, is it time? Is it the right time for us to start putting in place to extract ourselves and our family from these scenarios? We do not need Europe to survive. People are always trying to latch on and feeling like Europe makes it better than everywhere else. You know, you can live a happy life where you make it work. So until next week, it's been a doctor's surgery. You know, you can catch the show on YouTube, the doctor's surgery channel, filter by channels, and you'll find us. So until next week, take care and give care. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Take care all.
Media Radio 104.1 News and views around your community.